We're checking in with our friend, celebrity historian Raffi Andonian, ahead of this weekend's big derby. He's going to break it all down right here after the break. Good morning, everyone. Welcome on into North Dakota today. All right, time to bust out those caps and fascinators. The Kentucky Derby is coming up this weekend, and we're taking a look at the surprising origins of the Derby and the development of the fashion. Joining us this morning is our friend, celebrity historian Raffi Andonian, in his Derby style. Good morning, Raffi.
Good morning. I'm trying to be cool myself, ready for the spring to go out in the Derby.
I love it. Yes, we are feeling those vibes. So just kick things off. How did the Kentucky Derby even get its start?
The first race is in 1875. And believe it or not, the person, and actually what it is also the longest continuous sporting event in the United States, which is really cool to think about. It has never stopped since 1875. So we're coming up on the 150th race. And believe it or not, it was started by Meriwether Lewis Clark. That may sound familiar to you. Clark is the last name. Clark is, of course, grandson of the William Clark of Lewis and Clark. That's why he was named Meriwether Lewis Clark, so named after the expedition. So this is William Clark's grandson, whose great uncle had actually started Louisville, like established Louisville as a town. And so the family was still there in the area. And remember, Lewis and Clark come right up, of course, into North Dakota. I'd say the most important part of the journey where they meet Sacagawea. So there's even a North Dakota tie to the start of the Kentucky Derby with Meriwether Lewis Clark. And what he did is he had gone to a trip to Europe, and he had seen in England what's called the Epsom Derby, which was already almost a century old by the time we're talking about the start of the Kentucky Derby. And he wanted to duplicate that here in the United States. And so that's what he did. And then he went to his uncles, the last name of Churchill, John and Henry Churchill, who lived in Louisville, and got funding to establish the racetrack and to establish, of course, what we know as Churchill Downs. And so that's how it got its start. It's just intimately tied to the story of Lewis and Clark, horses, going over to Europe, and that very prominent family in Louisville.
Okay, that is actually incredible when you present all of those historic facts like that.
Shocking, so I know, something we would not consider.
Oh, right, okay, so all those dots are lining up. But how did fashion become such an important part of it?
So remember, when he was trying to copy England, what he was trying to do was make like a very fancy event over here as well. And so, initially you had to show up in morning dress, which is basically wearing like, your full daytime formal attire. But what happens is over time with new leadership or in the early 20th century, things begin to change. So for example, inviting celebrities was an early practice, but then what also gets added is trying to get radio coverage, live radio coverage, and eventually live TV coverage in the 1950s. And that brings a lot of attention. And so the fashion is going to change with it too. And you have initially the full morning dress, and in the 1920s you have this more modern look, not the flapper girl look that we think of. You have to be more formal than that, but switching over to modern suits, for example. And then in the 1950s, after World War II, there's a little bit more elaborate look because of the post-war prosperity. But in 1960s is really where I would draw it to, because by the 60s, TV is very prominent. You're getting live TV coverage. And also there is this reaction against a lot of the traditional outfits. So you're going to see more patterns and bright colors like I'm wearing. You may get rid of the jackets. So it's going to be less formal. For women, they're going to be maybe coming in sundresses. And of course the hats, which had always been a part of it because it was formal, but now they're going to be more rebellious. They're going to be something that no longer is part of the regular fashion to wear in regular everyday outfits. So now wearing a hat is actually seen as cool and different, and that's when they start to go over the top to try to make a huge statement and to go all out with the hat. And that's how the hat shifts to being something even more prominent in the Kentucky Derby than it initially was. Initially, it'd be part of your overall outfit because that's part of a formal outfit. But now it became a style statement with TV cameras and celebrities, and no longer normal part of an outfit in the 60s. So now it became something that was really there to pack a punch.
Yeah, forget the race in itself. It is all about the hat and the whole outfit.
That's right.
But actually, back to the competition, how did the Triple Crown even develop?
Well, the Triple Crown initially starts with, believe it or not, in the Catholic Church. You have a Triple Crown that the Pope does wear on occasion. Mm-hmm. And then the Triple Crown is used in England. Remember the Epsom Derby that our friend Meriwether Lewis Clark went to? Well, Epsom Derby is part of what's called the Triple Crown in England. And then there were attempts for a Triple Crown within New York. in the United States, but none of those efforts actually worked out. Initially, the Kentucky Derby was not trying to be part of the Triple Crown, but when Sir Barton won all three races, of course, we're talking about the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont Stakes, and of course the Preakness, when he won all three races in 1919, they started to think about maybe we can pull these races together to create the Triple Crown. So Maryland and Kentucky started to coordinate to try to make the dates to work together. Because, for example, because these dates would fluctuate sometimes, on occasion, you'd have something like the Belmont Stakes be on the same date as the Kentucky Derby. So obviously you can't have a Triple Crown winner in that situation. When Sir Barton did it, it was in a period of 32 days. That's really tight for three races. So they made some adjustments working together to develop what became known as a Triple Crown. We didn't think of it as a Triple Crown, that terminology, for these set of races until the 1930s. That's when it really became and developed. But there is a tradition that goes back in Western Civ, if you think about it, and in horse racing with England, that really values a Triple Crown, which is how we kind of came up with the terminology, leaning on that tradition, and in the tradition of how it started, actually copying England in that regard in a way that I don't think Meriwether Lewis Clark foresaw.
No, and look at, it's still standing the time testament here. So before we let you go, have you ever personally been to the Derby?
I have not been to the Derby myself, but I'd love to go because, of course, I love TV. I love to be on camera. I want to be there as a celebrity, styling it up. I'd wear something even crazier when I know the live TV cameras are on me over there. So I'd love to go. I think that'd be part of the experience and be the only celebrity historian in the crowd of celebrities at the Kentucky Derby.
Woo! All right, we'll speak that into existence for you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you all.
All right, stick around, everybody. Coming up on today's show, we have another look at Blue Water Bash previews. That's coming up next.